what I thought.
He should have been Mr. Winner. And so he wanted to bring the arrow. And then we put
So big for soccer.
for just the arrow.
Okay, he didn't tell me how to get into this.
Well, mine
I'll take another if you want me to keep it.
because of the-
I'm good. Yeah, thank you.
It is.
Jim, are you? You're sure. Jim, you logged on? You good?
No,
No.
I'm not.
No?
No.
Uh-oh. Don't jump down there.
You go into
Apps.
You're going to board book.
Oh, yeah, I just.
Just the SD25, ELS, and then go to the board,
No, this is
and down to the, yeah.
So,
And then you scroll down to the
says that's been changed, so that no longer works. She, Renee put my but now it's, oh, do you see board docs? Go back up,
go.
go back up to the top.
Oh, no, you were there.
I was there.
Yeah, right here. Current board agendas and minutes.
Okay, that's where I was going.
See, mine's different than yours, so I don't know. What do I know?
There, this works. I got the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, and just hit regular board seat. Click on that and then view the agenda. And that brings it up, everything's. And then you just click over
This is so
here.
much different than it was when I was.
I know, well, it just all changed too.
Just recently.
Yeah, yeah, just within the last probably 4 or 5 months. And mine never comes up the same way everybody else did.
Everybody running? Yeah. Okay, we can go. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you for being here. We should stay all night with us, but that's okay. That's just fine. But I would like to do the pledge now with Bailey Tonks. Bailey gonna help us? Thank you. Thank you, Bailey. Let's see here. All our board members are here tonight, present, including Jim Facer. Good to see you back. There is one item on the agenda, and that is, is the elementary enrollment projections. And I would like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addenda.
I move that we approve the agenda with the addenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none opposed, that motion is passed. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and those minutes include regular board meeting on October 15th, 2019, executive session, personnel, student discipline council, anyway, December 4th, 2019, a work session December 10th, 2019, and the regular board meeting December 17th of last year. And I would like to approve these minutes
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
With corrections.
with corrections.
I'll second.
Okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
Say
Aye.
Hearing all in the affirmative, that has passed. The next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes authorizing the payment of claims, approving the supplemental financial information, and approving the human resource activity. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that motion has passed. Next on the agenda is Ms. Fisher for recognitions.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, trustees, Dr. Howell, Ms. Johnson, and student representatives. Tonight, we will recognize several individuals who, through their endeavors, have supported and embodied our district's mission, vision, and beliefs to think more, learn more, and be more together. So first, we'll be giving our cake awards. Our district believes a safe, supportive, caring, and respectful environment is critical to student learning. The School District 25 Education Foundation, in partnership with McDonald's, supports the Learner of the Month Award to recognize one elementary and one secondary learner from our district from October through May. The Cake Award celebrates positive character, attitude, kindness, and encouragement toward others. In addition to being recognized here at the monthly board meetings, the recipients also receive cupcakes delivered to their classrooms to be enjoyed by the students among their peers. Nominations for the Cake Award are submitted by a teacher who has observed this nominee's behavior and are approved by the building's principals. So our January Cake Award elementary learner, I'd like to invite Bailey Tonks up to the podium. And I believe this is a surprise for Bailey this evening, so if you want to come join me up here. And just stand right behind me right here, okay? Bailey is a 5th grade learner at Syringa Elementary School. And her nomination is Mrs. Golden here. Would you join me up here as well? Was Andrea Golden, did I pronounce that right? In her nomination letter, Mrs. Golden wrote, "Bailey always arrives at school with a smile and an eagerness to learn. She is patient, kind, and willing to help anyone. She exhibits these admirable traits in her words and her actions. When fellow classmates are struggling with an assignment or concept, Bailey will take the time to explain and practice until a level of comfort is achieved. Having her in class is a great benefit to not only me, her teacher, but to everyone." So with that, we're going to give you this certificate here tonight to thank you for modeling wonderful behavior for your peers. And also, is this also a surprise? Tomorrow, we're going to be bringing cupcakes to your class. So we have that scheduled tomorrow morning, okay? And then we'll recognize you and read the same thing in front of your classmates. Is that okay? Okay, and then also you and your teacher both will receive a certificate to McDonald's. McDonald's is our sponsor for this award. So you're going to receive the gift card from them as well tomorrow, okay? And then this is the coolest thing about this award, I think. You might think the cupcakes are cool, but I think this is really cool that you are, and your library is going to receive a $50 donation in your name to purchase books that will go in your library for all time. So will you please join me in congratulating Bailey for modeling character, kindness, encouragement in her school.
Good for you, Bailey. Congratulations.
And you were just coming to say the pledge, huh? I almost gave it away, didn't I?
I know, I almost gave it away earlier too. Our January Cake Award winner for secondary learner is Kansas Evans. Kansas plays basketball for Pocatello High School, and they have a game this evening, so he was unable to attend. But we're going to recognize him here among you tonight, as well as tomorrow in his class at Pocatello High School. Like I said, he's in the 9th grade at Pokey, and he was nominated by his teacher, Mrs. Latta. Is Mrs. Latta here tonight? No, she was unable to come as well. So in her nomination letter, Mrs. Latta wrote, "I believe this student deserves this award because he always works extremely hard in my class. I also have noticed that he's always friendly to everyone he meets. We have had 2 new students come to my class in the middle of the trimester, and Kansas was always the first person to welcome them to my class and make sure they knew what was going on. He is also aware when he is not always on task or even struggling in a class and does his best to get back on track. He is super supportive of his peers and his school. I know this personally because he was at Irving, and I had 2 daughters below, or one daughter above him and one daughter below him, and he did the same thing with them. And so he's definitely a model of kindness and encouragement in his school, from middle school and now into high school. So Kansas will also be recognized among his peers with cupcakes for everyone in his class. He and his teacher, Mrs. Latta, will also receive a gift card from McDonald's, and the school's library at Pokey will also receive a $50 donation to purchase books in the award recipient's name, also from our partner McDonald's. So please help me join, show our appreciation for Kansas. And we will extend our congratulations on your behalf to him tomorrow, if that's okay, and give him his certificate. Next, we have the Employee of the Month Pies Award, and that award recognizes our employees who positively influence educational success. The award is for employees who go above and beyond in that effort, and ISU Credit Union is our sponsor in providing this award. So with that, will Mr. Anthony Bosquez, who is January's Pies Award, and Mr. Bosquez was nominated, he received 5 nominations, not only from his school principal, Mrs. Pixton, but also from Amy Brown, Lisa Lagerstrom, Sue Mandler, and Karen Miller. So that's quite the testament to the work that you've been doing. Each of the nomination letters that we received shared similar stories, so I'll just share one with you tonight. Mrs. Pixton wrote, Anthony had huge shoes to fill when Stony Burt retired from being Indian Hill's computer tech hero. Before teachers and staff returned to the building in August of 2019, Anthony had acquainted himself with the office staff in the building, sharing his personal phone number and any help we needed. True to form, the Indian Hill staff welcomes Anthony with many needy demands. He showed patience and good humor as he got us all set up for the new school year. He even worked overtime to make sure a teacher who had moved their new Promethean boards set up. He was good-natured and willing to do whatever was necessary to get that classroom set up. Anthony has been accessible and friendly throughout the year, seeming to drop everything to help with our smallest and our largest technical difficulties. This last week, we had all of our desktop computers reimagined. Anthony worked around our schedules and even came in early at 6:30 a.m. to make sure we could start our school day with our newly reimagined computers working. He stayed until every teacher was happy with their computer, printing, Promethean board, and our other electronic devices. We love having Anthony in our building, and we all know how important our building tech support is for our teachers as they implement technology in the classrooms every day. So we want to thank you and recognize you in front of the board. You're going to receive the certificate as well as a $50 gift card, a Visa gift card on behalf of ISU Credit Union, as well as a vacation voucher getaway. And then your school will receive $20, and you guys can decide as a group for nominating Anthony what you want to do with that. And I'd like to invite you to shake hands with our board so that they can congratulate you personally, and thank you so much for all you do. And that concludes our
Above and
recognitions
beyond.
this evening.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much. You have a few more.
Whole team's there. Okay, moving on. It's,
You're all leaving.
oh. Sorry to see you go. Next, it's time for reports on the agenda, student reports in particular.
Public comment?
Well, there's no comment and time for, but I don't have any, so I'm moving on. Student reports, and the first will be from Abby Mortimer, Highland High School. Yes, pull it on in.
Is it good? Are we all good? Okay. So this month our Highlands College Career and Advisors held a student scholarship night, and we had over 90 kids there, so it was really awesome. And then student government has started Make-A-Wish, and this is where we fundraise for a person that has like an illness, and we go through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and we raise about $15,000 every year for it, which is really exciting. And then we'd like to congratulate Dominic McRoberts. He's a Highland student, and he recently competed and finished third in the East Idaho Strongest Man competition. And it was his first one, and his third place finish qualified him for nationals in Minneapolis. So we're really proud of him. And other than that, that's it.
Thank you. And next from Pocatello High School, Kaylin Gondola.
How far do I need to? This is good.
Perfect.
Okay, we have a handful actually. So Pokey, we are planning our day of service on April 17th. Sorry. Right now we are finding places that we can go help with. Some of our service opportunities are the Pocatello Zoo, the Senior Center, Westside Players, and we're still looking for more opportunities. So if you guys have any suggestions, that would be amazing. We also raised $500 for Family Service Alliance with our 3rd annual TSTS, our Teacher Staff Talent Show. Robotics is in full swing. Our boys basketball team is doing really well. We actually have a game tonight against Burley. We love our new front entrance. It's beautiful. It's very well used. We were one of the 22 high schools in the entire world accepted in an elite science program called the Small World Project. So that's pretty cool. Our student government won the Outstanding Student Government Award again this year. So we'll be attending the state conference next month. And then for the first time in 10 years, Pokey sent students to compete in the BPA, which is the Business Professionals of America Regional Leadership Conference. Of the 11 competing, all of them were finalists in their events and 9 qualified for state competition. So we're doing very good. And that is it.
Thank you. Thank you, Kaylin. Okay, ladies, it's, I wish you'd stay with us, but you're excused. You're excused. I know there's things to do. Thank you very much for what you did for us tonight.
Thank you.
See you, Andy. Take care.
Yeah, it's just great.
Courtney, media report? Community relations update.
Hello again. So it's been a couple months since I've been able to give the media and community relations report. We're going to focus on, since the last meeting on December 17th, the 2020 legislative session is now in full swing. So much of the reporting in the media has focused on educational issues that will come up during the session. So some of those recent headlines include Little building legacy as Idaho's pro-education governor, which we like to hear. Little prioritizes teacher pay raises in a tight budget year. Little embraces the literacy issue for the long haul. ISBA sets priorities for the 2020 legislative session. All-day kindergarten has been in the news recently. Common Core standards, school closures more locally. We had lots of school closures surrounding us last week, so that was big news. Although we didn't close almost every school district around us, we just didn't get hit as hard. And then the 2020 census, which I'll focus on a little bit more down on my community relations report, excuse me. Social media, since December 17th, we've posted 27 times on Facebook, which we were on break for 2 out of the 4 weeks, so that's a pretty good hit. We've increased our page likes. We're now over 8,000 likes on our district page, and we are followed by 8,831, so we're slowly creeping up to that 10,000 mark, which I like to see. Total post engagement, which includes comments, likes, and shares, was 14,824. 16,426 page views garnered in that time period, and our total reach was just under 24,000, with video views totaling 1,600. We have surpassed the 500 mark on Instagram, which is a really big jump because we were just over 300 in December, and we've now gone to 524 Instagram followers. So more and more of our users are following us on Instagram, and our Twitter audience is still just creeping along at 316. Our website, our Google Analytics for the last 28 days, we've had 21,000 users. That's about 854 users per day, which is really good. We like to see that number. About 36,000 unique sessions, and more than 55%, which is pretty consistent from where we've been, of our users are accessing our website from their phone. So again, we're constantly monitoring how user-friendly our mobile website is. And we have some really exciting changes for the website to make that even more mobile proficient and our information easier and easier to find. But that's a really long process. Our most frequently visited pages are home, calendars, PHS home, news, elementary school food services home, food services HR, Highland High School home, and the district links and form. And so those most frequently visited are pretty consistent with what they have been. As in the world of community relations, it's been really busy, and it will continue to get busy. So we're now in the legislative session. So the Pocatello-Chubbuck Chamber of Commerce Legislative Council is in full swing. We're going to start having our weekly calls with the legislators beginning this Thursday. So those meetings start at 7 and wrap up around 8:30. And that happens weekly through the legislative session into April. So that's always exciting to start that process. And then, like I said earlier, the 2020 census is upon us. That census has pretty big repercussions for education. So we are involved in a overall census committee, and then I'm the chair of the education census subcommittee. So we will be meeting this Friday to talk about how we can get the word out and connect that census activity to how it integrates with education. So we've got some good information to share that way. We also have our school plant facility levy renewal, and that community outreach has begun. We have shared our information fact sheet with our Infinite Campus users, as well as shared that on Facebook and social media. So we also created a new page at sd25.us/elections. And that post that we did to Facebook on Friday, it had a reach of about 2,249. 110 people clicked through the link to the images. And we actively sent through those activities 650 people to our website to review that information. So that's a really good way to get that information in front of people. We will continue to post that and share that information with our voting public. More than 60 community presentations are planned, and those will begin next Monday, January 27th. So please do let me know on the schedule that you've been given if there are any of those presentations that you would like to attend. Welcome your participation. And then we've been doing a little bit, yes, Mr. Matson has shared his. We've been doing a little bit of research, and on the March 16th, 2010, the last time that plant facilities levy was renewed, that was a passage rate of 75.97%, and we need 55% to pass to renew that levy. So with that, with any questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Courtney.
Questions? No? Okay. Thank you.
Now it's at the point for the annual board reorganization. The board will elect officers, appoint a treasurer, clerk, and backup clerks, appoint a custodian of public records, appoint the auditor, designate posting locations, set the school board meeting schedule for the 2021 school year, and then the volunteer for board committees. I must say that there's only 3 committees that we.
Right.
I sort of missed that. Yes, yes. But who's gonna populate my phone? When do I know that where these other meetings are? You know, is, we still pop, okay,
As far as letting you know
Okay.
when the dates are, and you guys can just show up to those if you let me know beforehand, make sure there's
okay.
two, but.
We've tended to show up in groves lately.
What's that?
We've tended to show up with more than two lately.
Well,
Several
just-
things, but
Yeah.
it works.
In fact, I probably passed over that. Board members, do we have any committee reports? You should be telling us about the Subcommittee.
Oh,
That
well,
I
we
get-
kind of talked,
got
well, that was
kicked out.
last week. We talked about it while
I
at
know.
work
I know I did,
session.
I got kicked out. But that's okay. That's fine.
And Bart covered it really,
Yeah.
really
yeah.
well last week, so.
Don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, but it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good committee. Yeah, anyway. Mr. Superintendent, are you ready to take my chair?
No, I'll just, you could pass me the gavel, but I don't even know that that's okay.
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 Thank you. So, tonight with the board reorganization, I'll just review for you, those 5 components or the criteria for serving as, for the board chair. And that's the only one that I'll be involved in, and then whomever is elected will, take it over from there. So the criterion is the interest in serving as the board chair. Experience on the board should be taken into consideration. Availability, holding a previous office on the board, and the willingness to be the spokesperson for the board. And so those are the 5 elements for being the board chair, and I will accept nominations at this time.
I'd like to nominate Dave Manson.
I will second that.
Okay. Any other nominations from the board? Any discussion? Seeing none?
Get railroaded.
I think
Uh,
Dave does a good job there. I think that's it. And he's worked into that, and I think he's a good spokesperson for us, so I'm fine with that.
So, no discussion, but I'll still ask for a vote. Those in favor of Mr. Hanson serving as board chair?
Aye.
I don't vote, do I?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
You're
that's
still
a lot.
in though,
That's
even
still-
if you're good, yeah,
still a
4 to
lot.
1. So, I don't know, that might go with the interest in serving though, so,
Yeah,
There you are,
there you
sir.
go.
yeah, thank you.
Yep, got it back. No problem. Okay, where are we? Let's see, now, time for call for nominations for vice chair. Are there any nominations?
I would nominate Paul Vitale
I'll
to
second.
remain as vice chair.
And do it again?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, second, Mrs. Gibson.
Yes.
We got a second, then, so we don't need more discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And hearing all in the positive, that motion is passed. I will see the nomination for the assistant clerk. Are there any nominations?
I would nominate Jackie Kramer.
I'll second that.
No other discussion? Moving ahead. Is there, there was a second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? I didn't hear everybody. Hearing none, that motion is passed. Now it's time for nominations for the assistant treasurer. Are there any nominations?
I don't know your circumstance, Jamie.
Yes.
I
So-
will be here, so I'm not moving. I'm just going to be working in Salt Lake part of the time.
Done.
Okay, so I would nominate Jamie
Mhm.
Gephardt
Mhm.
for that.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Give him time to get acclimated.
Yeah, get your legs under it again. Okay, that is passed. Let's see, what's next on here?
Appoint,
What's that?
we have to appoint some people.
Oh, yes, yes. We need to appoint the treasurer, clerk, and backup clerks. And the recommendation is the board appoint Bart Reed as the treasurer, Renee Johnson as the clerk, and Tara Jensen and Cheryl Marley as the backup clerks. Is there a motion?
I move that we appoint those people to the jobs that named.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Probably not. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none opposed, the motion is passed. And now it's time to appoint the custodian of public records. It is recommended that the board appoint Courtney Fisher and Renee Johnson as the custodians of public records for the district. Is there a motion?
I move that we appoint those two as custodians.
I'll
Public
second.
record.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, that motion is passed. We will now appoint the auditor, and it is recommended that the board appoint Deaton and Company as the district's independent auditor for the 2021 school year. Is there a motion?
I move that we appoint Deaton and Company as the independent auditor for the 2020, 2021 school year.
It's a lot of 20, yeah. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion is passed. And we will now designate the board meeting posting locations. It is recommended that the board designate the Education Service Center, Bannock County Courthouse, district website, and district social media sites as the posting locations for the 2020-2021 school year. Is there a motion?
I move we appoint those sites, Education Service Center, Bannock County Courthouse, district website, and district social media site for posting locations.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion is passed, and we will now set up the school board meeting schedule for the 2020-2021 year. Let's go to the discussion first. I guess that's it, well, I guess no discussion. It looks like a regular calendar on there, the regular dates. It's nothing new. Do we have to do this every year? It's
Yes.
by law, okay.
The days are
all right.
different.
Here it is. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the district calendar for this upcoming year.
A second.
Or,
The Board of Trustees calendar?
yeah, Board of Trustees calendar
School.
for the school board, for meetings for the year 2020, 2021.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion has passed, and it's now time to talk about volunteering for the board committees, including the calendar committee, the SIP committee, and the curriculum committee. Are there any volunteers? I volunteered for the calendar committee. That was fun.
I would like to.
Anybody want to fight me for that?
No. Do you want to?
We can have two.
Well, we can have two.
Yeah.
Do you want to be on the,
I'd rather be on the sick committee.
okay. I'll be on the calendar committee.
Okay, all right. Got that handled. And then I think I have to be on curriculum, is that correct?
No.
I don't
Oh, I
think-
thought we had to be on,
Oh.
board chair had to
Did
be.
we, just by
No.
default or something?
It just happened that there was because Jackie moved off, you came on, but,
You can,
the only committee, no, it's actually Paul.
Anymore, yeah. So, who wants to run the
I can
curriculum?
do it as long as I can, but Thursday mornings may be hard,
Correct.
so.
Anybody else want to volunteer?
I did it for quite a few years, so I don't want to do it again.
Oh, I'll do it.
Okay, correct.
Good for you.
And then the SIP committee.
I just started doing that, so I've
And,
only been to one meeting.
Well, you said the two of us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll be on the sick committee.
got it all written down? Done. And I'll go to the other ones.
What about key communicators? Is that just one where we
Just
volunteer?
Yeah.
We just volunteer
The
each
first
time?
two volunteers and the other ones are kicked out.
And I will continue to attend Judge Murray's meeting.
Okay, it's time to move on to the curriculum and instruction, school safety. Chuck, you're up first.
Good evening, and welcome, Mr. Facer.
Thank you.
Nice to have you back. My first item, I'm kind of excited to report to you about the district graduation rates. We have finalized the appeals for the 2018-19 cohort graduation rates, And I'm pleased to inform you that our district-wide graduation rate increased from 89.6% in 2017-18 to 92.5% in 2018-19. We attribute this to the hard work and dedication of our teaching staff and building administration who work with our learners on a daily basis to keep them in school and succeeding. Also, a huge shout out should go to our high school registrars who work in conjunction with Cami Chopsky in the curriculum department to provide the necessary documentation for students who have left the district. They all do an outstanding job with the appeals process throughout the year. The chart in your packet also identifies the graduation rate for each high school, Century, Highland, and Pocatello, who are all above 95%. It's also appropriate, I think, to recognize Amy Prescott and her staff at New Horizon High School, who increased their graduation rate 8% from the previous school year. So I think that's truly impressive, and we're really proud of all of our high schools and the efforts that they have put forth in that area. Moving then to my next item, the textbook adoption for secondary social studies. You have in your packet a memo detailing the request for the middle and high school social studies textbook adoption. I am waiting for a final cost proposal from one of the publishers, but I'm anticipating the cost of the adoption to be just in excess of $780,000. I'm hopeful the final amount will be slightly less, depending on the cost proposal that I'm waiting for. In any case, this amount is in excess of what was allocated within the secondary textbook budget. However, the remaining balance can be accommodated by utilizing unspent funds previously identified for other purposes within that budget. And so it's my recommendation that the board approve the adoption as noted on the memo.
Thank you.
Unless you have questions,
That includes all of these courses that are listed, right?
That's correct, yes.
All of the ones listed.
Right.
How old are the manuals that we're replacing?
Really old.
15 years?
I want to say maybe 2005, if not older.
And what are we putting, are we putting a specific program on hold to use their funds up for this?
No.
Not any particular
Nothing in
adoption or anything?
particular, no.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori Craney, you have a whole list of items for us.
Move right along, though, how about that? First of all, the 21st Century After School program at Hawthorne and Irving, the programs are in the process of completing their NASA STEM challenge. At the end of the month, they'll be participating in a STEM engineering fair for the NASA challenge where the students will report on their projects. So that's exciting work. Around 12 centers, which are Irving, Washington, Jefferson, and Lewis and Clark, will be undergoing a third-year evaluation at the beginning of next month. And they'll have a third-party evaluator come into the program to assess it and to make sure that they're running according to the original grant proposal. Principals and after-school staff are currently working on a grant for Tendoy, Tyhe, Green Acres, and Wilcox. The grant will focus on developing the whole child through the inclusion of academic, cognitive, physical, and social emotional activities. Green Acres will serve elementary students from both Tendoy and Green Acres. Wilcox and Tyhe will serve elementary students from their respective schools, and then Tendoy will be providing a preschool option for students in that area there for Green Acres and Tendoy. The grant's due January 31st, so we're madly trying to get it all together. And under action items, you'll be asked to consider the approval of the grant pending completion.
I had a question, when I went through this. I wondered, how do you pick, is there a specific criteria or something that you pick the elementary schools or the middle schools that you do for your grant applications?
We do, and basically this is who wants to do this, so it is because it does take a commitment on the school's part in order to support the program, to make sure that there are students keep enrolling in the program, the teachers are willing to work in collaboration to, provide those homework and academic. So that's what we've done, and these were the
Okay.
ones that had. And then we also, you get more points. You want to have schools with that'll have higher priority, which would be schools with a higher percentage of free and reduced lunch. And then we get more points for those. So you have to be careful when you
Apply?
apply that you combine schools. So for example, Tyke doesn't have quite as high, but the other schools do have higher. So we were able to pair those together in order to not lose points in that area. We're excited for the grant we've had. When you work on a grant like this, it is really, it's different. And we start throwing ideas together, and when you're starting to think about the possibilities for our learners, it becomes pretty exciting. So but it just does take some work, and it's hard to get everybody together, so that's why we always end up butting up against a deadline. So we think we'll have a great grant. Okay, for the Head Start, the ERSI enrollment report, the program's at full enrollment with 183 students. There were no withdrawals in December. There's 14 4-year-olds and 23 3-year-olds on the wait list. The average daily attendance for December was 81.93%. The number one reason was illness, and the program is conducting an in-depth analysis to better understand the decreases in daily attendance. For personnel, there are 2 open positions, a bus driver and a dispatcher. The program hopes to schedule interviews this week. The first day of school for the 2 Head Start classrooms at Wilcox was January 7th, so yay, we're able to get them up and going. The transition went very smoothly, and children and families were all excited to be back in session. Buses for the full-day program were up and running January 13th. Children were excited to be riding the bus. And we anticipate the attendance will improve for these classrooms now that transportation services are in place. So we did have quite the weather those couple of days so they did get inaugurated to the snowy weather. With additional funding made available through IHSA, the program will be able to take 6 parents to the annual IHSA conference on February 4th through the 5th in Boise. On day 1, parents will receive advocacy training and learn how to tell their personal stories and talk about the benefits of Head Start. On day 2, parents will travel to the State House and have an opportunity to visit with their local legislators. Those of you who've been on Policy Council, and I've heard parents when they've come back from this, know that it is life-changing for them, and how they learn how to advocate and all it is really amazing when they talk about what they learn at those.
And might I suggest too that you give Renee a schedule of Policy Council meetings so that you post that, so if some of us can go to that at certain times, we can do that.
That'd be wonderful to have them. And we do have the president, is President Kathy, is that what he's called, the president? The chair of the Policy Council chair. He really keeps those meetings rolling, does he? So they are very, they're on time, and he makes sure that we get in and out of there. We have team building. He's done a really good job with doing that.
Yeah.
And would you be sure to send that over to Renee so that she gets that?
So we're more aware of when that is.
That'd be great. Focus Area 1, there was a federal monitoring review, and the report has come in. Mr. Vitale, you participated in that.
Yeah.
And on January 17th, the program received a formal report for the federal review, which was conducted in October. There were no compliance issues, which is always good news. There were several areas where the program received highlights, noting best practices in supporting quality services. There were 3 areas that were noted for continuous improvement, namely in the area of health services and having a mental health consultant, ensuring children's safety where they're looking at, what documentation is in place, and then recruitment of children with disabilities, which we do have a pretty strong program. So, they did an over-the-phone kind of interview, so we were glad that they came out with those findings. And the continuous improvement, Ms. Brave informed me, those are just kind of like warnings when they come and do an on-site visit. They'll say, hey, tell us about, but there's nothing we have to do in relation to that. So they were not findings that were noted there. The CACFP audit is for February 11th through the 13th, and the staff's diligently preparing for that, and that's for the food program. The notice of funding letter on December 9th, the program received the notice of funding letter for the 2020-2021 school year. Enrollment remains at 183, and available funding is $2,380,775. Applications are due April 1st. And the program is in the early stages of preparing a facility application to replace the building that was destroyed by the fire in November. So Ms. Bray and I are working on that, and we're working with Mr. Reed to try to figure out what are going to be our best options. And then there is just a lot of paperwork and a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross when we're looking at using federal dollars for the replacement. So we'll have our work cut out. In your packet is the Idaho Food Bank Backpack Report. 1,002 backpacks were distributed in December. And then you'll also have it in the addendum, there the enrollment projections. And so what I did for this, just to get us a feel for where we're going to be, and like if we were, where would we be if we just took the students that we had. So you'll note on the chart that I did, I kind of have a lot of things going on with this chart, but what I did is I rolled over the 1920 students, so the students who are actually in those classrooms in 1920, and that's inclusive of transfers in, and then it doesn't include any transfers that are out. So it's just which students are in those classrooms, and then the number of FTE there, and then it calculates the class size, and that's always what I pay attention to. You'll also notice on the chart there that I have put in the overloads because that's always something that I worry about. So if there's a minus, such as a -6 at Idaho, you'll notice that in first grade, there's a -6 in first grade, but that means that there were 6 overloaded kindergartners from Idaho this year. At Ellis, you'll note that those numbers are not. There's in the overload column, which is the OL column, but they are not red, they're black, and those are students that are attending that school on an overload. For example, they have 5 current kindergartners on overload, and they'll move up. I just moved to show them with the first grade. I backed them out of the numbers. So Ellis shows 53 students, and really there are like 58 there. I took out the 5 overloaded students, and we put them back into their neighborhood school. So
Before you show them minused out in their regular.
This is just the OL column that shows where they are currently. That's what we have today.
Okay.
But I put them all back into their neighborhood schools so we could see, are we going to have an overload situation? Sometimes the overloads take care of themselves as they move up. We have 25, we usually cap it at 25 in kindergarten and first grade. We cap it at 28 in second and third, and then we cap it at 30 in fourth and fifth. So as we move along, they do take care of themselves. Where we do end up with overloads are in Idaho. If you look at class size now, that's where I would go to say, if we were to just take the students that we have now, we move them up, do all that, put them back into their neighborhood school, where would we be in an overload situation? In Idaho, I would look and say we would be in second grade. We have 30 students in each classroom. What we did this year in our first grade classroom there is they went higher in one of the first grade classrooms at Idaho, and we have a full-time aide that we put into that classroom, and so they were able to operate with a teacher, a few more students, and a full-time aide, and it's been a good year for them. So we were able to make that work last year to put students, into their neighborhood school and to take care of that overload. You will notice that our first grade will be an area that we'll be really watching there at Gate City. We'll be full there, it looks like. And then we'll be at Tyhee in our first grade. And then at Washington, our fifth grade will be full there. And then at Wilcox, we'll be full at 30 there will be an overload, I guess it's fourth grade. There will be an overloaded student there, and that's where we've been running really high at Wilcox in our fourth and fifth. You'll notice that we taper down to 3 classrooms there at Wilcox in our fourth and fifth, so we it always ends up being an area that we watch. This does not, this just gives us an idea of where do we need to look at, where are going to be our spots where we're going to have more students and where might be some where we have less. So it gives us just something to start work on. So I wanted to share that with you. It's just very preliminary. It's using November data, but it can tell you where some of our hot spots will be. Overall, though, when I think about, we've talked so much about how much, we've looked and there's so much building and we've worried and, oh my gosh, there's going to be this explosion and we're going to be overloading here and there. And when we look at how many really, that ends up being across a district with, 5,500 students, in our elementaries, however many we have in our elementary schools, I think that they're really, it's 2 here, 1 here, and not even at all of our schools. So I think we're be able to manage them and massage it a little bit and move some people around. And
Thanks for that information.
yes. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks. Sue Pettit.
Hello. And just so you know, secondary numbers won't be ready until after we do our roll-up, and that's not till the beginning of next month. So,
Every time I see you, I think we're at the end of the meeting.
I know, sorry.
So sorry.
Mine's short, though. Overnight and out-of-state travel requests. We have 3. One for our science department at Pocatello High School, one for our music going over to Honor State Music, Gem State Honor Music, and then student government from Pocatello High School. And we've checked, and their ratio to chaperones for students is good, and they're ready to go, and they are ahead of schedule instead of after the fact.
Thank
so,
you.
yes, you're welcome.
Is the
Can't-
one just says bus? Does that mean they're taking a regular bus?
Yes,
Okay. Is there a reason for that, or is,
it's whatever bus transportation schedules for them.
oh, okay.
Early graduation applications, we have 12 for the end of this trimester. And I would love for you to stop by and read one of the letters from students. It's got some personal information in it, so we couldn't make it public document, but it very well written and has some great plans for their life. So ask that you would approve those. And then last but not least, proposed camp requests. We have a couple of baseball camps and a volleyball skills clinic. You will notice that one of the baseball camps
Is
started
one
a
day.
week ago.
And one of them is 1 day.
Yes, one of them is 1 day. It's short, and it's for the little leagues. So, the baseball camp that started a week ago was actually requested for last month, due over Christmas break, and they turned it in the day of the board meeting and got told, no, sorry, you are not running it over Christmas break. You did not give the board a chance to approve this. And he thought he turned this one in time for this next board meeting so he could start it on the 13th. And he's been told, no, he hadn't, but it has started, so. Anyway. I request that you would approve those. And that's the end of my part, so now you're closer to the end.
Okay, thank you. Business operations, Bart Reed.
All right, thank you, Chairman Madsen and members of the board and Superintendent Howell. In your packet, you'll find the Idaho General Fund revenue report, which has been revised. Typically, the state will revise this at least twice during the year. And as you have an opportunity to look at this, there are a couple of very positive things. One is that this revised budget at the state level is 6.1% higher than last year's revenues. So that's a very positive indicator that things have been going better in the state and with Idaho's economy. That represents about $33 million over last year's budget as well. So things seem to still be moving forward. Maybe not as quickly as what they initially thought, but nonetheless in a positive direction rather than in a backward direction. So that should set very well with the state legislature who is meeting at the present time to decide issues like funding for public education and so forth. So we'll hope for the best from that. The next item is the eligibility for free and reduced meals and our paid meals. And we are sitting at 42.41%, which is unusually low, I guess, for based historically where we've been, but we have been fairly consistent this last year and also this year as well with that percent there. So again, I think that is tied to the economy, tied to how things are going overall with finances, with families, and so forth. Item C is a new item. This is a memorandum of understanding between the Pocatello-Chubbuck School District and the City of Pocatello. And this also is tied back to the Pocatello High School project. As you know, we have been working for a considerable amount of time with the City of Pocatello in trying to put together an agreement in relation to the stormwater and sewer lines that run through that property. And after many hours and days of discussion and how we can make this work for both entities, for the school district and also for the city, we have come up with this final memorandum of understanding for your approval. Let me just touch on a couple of key items rather than going through all the specific language in case you have questions. First of all, you'll remember the 4-foot stormwater line and the 2-foot sewer line that runs east and west between Unit 1, which is the main school, and the pit, if you will, in the auditorium building. The agreement is still the same as what we had before, and that is that in the event that either one of those two lines fails, that we would have to be able to disassemble the walkway area that will be built over those two lines, and we would have to shore up on either side about 15 feet to help excavate down and to replace those lines. The district would be responsible for the additional cost of shoring up those lines on that 15 feet of either side there. That becomes more difficult when there's a walkway built over there, because then instead of being able to excavate out further and then come down, you would have a narrower excavation. You would have to do some shoring up there. So we would have to cover that additional cost in the event that ever did fail. Okay. The second part of this is that there is an 8-inch sewer line that runs parallel with the sidewalk that runs on the east side of the auditorium toward the palace, if you will. That 8-inch line runs from, what is that street on that other side over there? It's not Fremont. Is it
Landing.
Is it Lander, maybe? On the south side of the palace, it runs underneath the band and choir rooms and goes under that 1960s addition, and then it runs under the sidewalk parallel with the pit, if you will, and then ties into that big 2-foot sewer line. This agreement would, in 10 years, the district would be required to relocate that sewer line that is non-existent down Lander to Garfield in the alley right there. It's about a 300-foot shot, if you would. The City of Pocatello has agreed to do the engineering cost for that and also to replace the pavement. The district would be responsible for the excavation of that sewer line and also the installation of that sewer line. The agreement also stipulates that the City of Pocatello will camera and inspect that line. That line was recently relined 5 to 8 years ago, and so they will continue to inspect that liner. That liner is anticipated to hold for at least 50 years. But it's never good to have a line going underneath a building, as we all know. So,
And we didn't do that.
pardon me?
That wasn't our fault, was it?
No, not necessarily. I think it's just a matter of how they used to do things in the past and how they do things in the present. And present practices are to eliminate those types of possibilities where there might be a failure under a building, and then what do you do? So taking some proactive steps, what we're looking at doing is within 10 years, unless that line shows some signs of failure or deterioration, which we don't anticipate, but in the event that it does, we would either relocate that line no later than 10 years or prior to that. And the responsibility for us would be to do the excavation and replacement of that. City of Pocatello would do the engineering and replacement of the asphalt on the street. So that's what we've come up with, mutually agreeable to the administration and to the City of Pocatello. And so this is before you for approval this evening. I will mention that if we do not have this memorandum of understanding in place, they will not issue a building permit. So that's not strong arming the district or in a threatening way, but is it a requirement on their behalf to protect their interests and to protect the interests of the district as well. Any questions? I know that this is new to you, Mr. Facer, maybe a little bit, but no questions? All right. Thank you.
I guess I do have one more.
Make it an easy one.
When you have to replace that, you don't have to excavate under the building.
No,
Just
that'd be a bad-
divert it and.
It would be rerouted down Lander toward Garfield.
Okay.
So right now it goes underneath there, and then the next one starts down at Garfield and goes north. So this would go down to Garfield and then tie into that. The outside depth of the one right to the south of the palace is 15 feet, and the one on down in the alley in Garfield is 13 feet. So there's a slight rise, but it actually goes down because the topography falls as it goes closer to the Portneuf River as you go west there.
So it would just be rerouting it.
It would be basically rerouting that down the street. The line that is underneath the building would still be maintained, and that would become a private line of the school district, as it is in most situations. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Last item is a bid that normally we're through our bids, but this is for our wide area network internet service. We entertained a proposal for this WAN service, if you will, and we had two vendors respond to this. One of them was E&A, which is our current provider, and the second one was Tech Hut, who is also a current customer of ours, if you will, or a current provider of many technology services for the district. We actually structured this bid for 1, 2, or 3 years, and then the possibility of looking at a 5-year option, depending upon where the price structure came in at. And so you'll see here that E&A was the lowest vendor for the first 3 years, but over a 5-year period of time, Tech Hut was the lowest cost per month on that. This is also E-rate eligible, and E-rate offsets the cost of this by 60% to the district. So the cost that you're seeing here is the full cost. The district would actually pay 40% of that cost, roughly. There's such a sizable difference over a 5-year period of time, and according to the technology department, it is not anticipated that these services will fall below what these costs are right here. And so their recommendation is for us to award this to Tech Hut in the amount of for either the 10 gig, well, for the amounts that are shown there, for either the 10, 20, 40, or the 100 gigabyte service there. Any questions from the board?
Do you do all of them or just one?
Pardon me?
Do you do 10, 20, 40, and 100, or just one of those?
Right now, what we are doing is 10, but they wanted to have the option to be able to, if we need to jump up to 20, to go to 20. They would go in increments. So they wouldn't go from 10 to 40. They would typically go from 10 to 20. And if 20 became insufficient, they would jump to 40. But they are looking at doing one line in there at 100 gigabytes coming in. So right now, we would be looking at probably the 10 gigabyte service and then the 100 gigabyte service, from what I understand.
School, like elementary's don't have the bandwidth requirements, bandwidth requirements, so they'll probably remain at 10, where the high schools need more, they
Right.
put up, and then
Right.
do that.
So they have options.
They have options. And so what this does is allow us to go between that range depending on need and demand.
My second question has to do with E-rate, because my
Mhm.
understanding was E-rate was tied to our free and reduced numbers.
It
Is
is.
that being impacted?
Yes and no. So it was impacted from the standpoint, it used to be 70%.
Oh, okay.
And then it went to, or no, excuse me, it used to be 80%. Yes, it used to be 80%. And then it went to 60%. So I don't think that we've moved that far on the free and reduced schedule to get us out of the 60% reimbursement. I can double check that, but I'm very positive that we're not out of that realm. So we went from 80 to 61, I think just this year? I think it was just this year, I believe. And so we hope to maintain that at that 60%.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Bart. Employee Services, Carl Smart.
All right, just a few items on my section of the agenda tonight. Of course, we always have an opportunity to talk about IC and Infinite Campus and technology. Just 3 or 4 odds and ends that we like to report for the technology department. And the IC is, I think, did Sue mention it earlier tonight about doing rollovers? And so that's going to be a big part of the technology department's focus over the next couple of months, is trying to make sure that's all correct and ready to go. As kids in the spring are asked, especially high school and 8th grade kids are asked to go in and figure out what their schedules might be for the next year. So that's an important thing we need to do. Phones, we have gone to our new provider for our phones. We no longer have our phones centralized in this building because we had a hard time managing the PBX. Nobody really had the expertise to manage the PBX efficiently. So TechHut is our new PBX, or phone service provider. So we've been going through over the last several weeks, couple or 3 weeks I guess would be, resetting phones, and all the elementary schools are now on the new system. And from what I've heard, the new phone system is working much better, especially the lag time that we've had. There's still some issues we have to work out, but we will get through those. And Bart mentioned the WAN bid, E-rate, and you talked about E-rate, Mrs. Gebhardt. We have to go out and get active bids to be able to get E-rate reimbursement. This is part of that process. And so whoever wins the bid tonight, if we go with the 5-year plan, and that's our hope, that it'll be a different carrier. Right now, Cable One is our carrier for the signal. It'll be a different carrier, so they will have to go through and do some actual work at each school to make that happen. And so over the next couple or 3 or 4 months, that'll be an important part of what they're going to be doing in the technology department, is to make sure that that happens at each school and they're able to tap into the new carrier. And in the way of IC, I'll just let you know this. We don't have all of the data yet, believe it or not. The state's had some issues with some of their data, so we don't have any idea what our average salary is. So we can figure out what our next month, I believe, was when we come with our budget adjustments. We only have a part of the puzzle that we know of, which is the units. And we had this conversation, I think, a couple of months ago about ADA is going to maybe affect our units, and our number of students didn't. The number of students that we thought we were going to have didn't arrive. Ultimately, it meant about 2 units to our funding, so that's not too bad. So the other piece of the puzzle we have to work on is average salary. So we will let you know more about that later, but we're not anticipating any really big changes. Before we thought maybe 3 or 4 or 5 units, it'll be maybe closer to 2. So that's the good news. Student enrollment information, that's in your packet. There's no real things to be worried about there. It's pretty typical what we see in our district. And actually, we've had a little bit of an uptick in enrollment. So whether they're move-ins or just moving around from, in community schools, I don't have any idea about that. We did have a little bit of an uptick. Also in your packet, item C is our wellness dashboard for the month of, for the month of December. And, you know, we kind of crowed about our medical experience over the last 3 or 4 months, and how good it looked. We had a little bit of an uptick you saw here, and this one is close to 90%, which is still lower than we've had in the past. And I think, Mr. Mattson, you've been
Yes,
very cognizant of that.
yes, probably the 2-week vacation, they did some surgeries or whatever. Saw Dr. Watney was number 3 on the list, so, that's when it happened.
Yeah.
So it'll go down next month.
So we're still in good shape, still in good shape. Kind of tied to that is our health fair, which we offer opportunities for our employees to participate for blood draws and mammograms. We opened this up last Wednesday afternoon, actually it was Wednesday evening, and we had about, I'm gonna guess about 145 mammogram spots. Less than 18 hours later, every one of those was full, taken care of. So we asked the hospital for another spot, and they gave us another spot at the end of February. So, but ultimately, we have about 160 spots for mammograms. They're all full. So with that being said, it's a indication of our employees' diligence in doing what they need to do, be able to stay healthy. On this coming Saturday, and 2 weeks after that, on the 8th of February, we have our health fair up to Highland High School. And we have reservation spots for 850 people. And for this coming Saturday, of the 432 spots available, everything but 44 is already filled. So it's good news.
Yeah.
Good news.
Sure.
So again, we invite you, like we do every year, to come and join us if you would like. We'd even invite you to come and get poked if you'd like, and get the test results. Mrs. Gebhardt's taken us up on that offer for
Several years.
So, but anyway, even if you don't want to come up, just come up and mingle. You can do that as well. We invite you up there. We have a lot of employees that you can visit with, and maybe do a little hobnobbing in the same time.
Saturday at 8 o'clock?
Saturday it starts at 7, actually, goes from 7 to noon.
7 to noon, okay.
So, if you're interested in participating with us for a blood draw, just let me know and we'll get you set up. And we'll take care of you from there.
Okay.
But unless there are other questions or comments, that completes my section of the agenda tonight.
Okay, thank you. And Human Resources, that's Brenda Miner, and she has nothing to present, so we're moving on. And it's up to the superintendent now. What do
Okay,
you have for us?
and I just have the board calendar for you. You probably already glanced at this as you were reviewing the agenda for tonight. So, of course, the board meeting and our exec session prior to this meeting. District Curriculum Committee meeting on Thursday. Mhm. Key communicators next Wednesday, and potentially student discipline hearings, depending on the outcome of any referrals. So keep an eye on that and keep you posted. February 4th on
Hey,
Tuesday.
can I interrupt 1 second?
Yep,
Who's
as long as it's on the agenda.
No, it's about committee,
Okay.
our calendar. Who's on our insurance committee?
Well, we don't have to be, but I'm gonna be on it, that's why I was.
Just attend.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not an assignment.
It's gonna be an invitation. Locke will be in town, I think it's next week. And talk of our carrier over medical issues.
Okay, why don't you send out an invite, and
So-
if we're going to have more than 2, Renee can post for,
But I just put that in, there's a calendar item. If you're interested in doing that, we can certainly invite you.
Okay, I will. Good, sure.
And I might let you know too, I was gonna attend that Key Communicators, because you're doing your presentation on the levy.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that's one I will be too, Renee. Are you,
So do I go to that curriculum committee then this time? Renee?
Thursday morning.
8:30.
did you volunteer, or did you kind of get roped?
He was voluntold.
You'll like it, you'll like it, It's a pretty
No, no, that's
interesting
okay.
meeting,
Yeah.
yeah.
I got a full day on Thursday. Have to go to Fort Home, yeah, do a probate hearing.
So February
Yeah.
4th, Board of School visits, Chubbuck, with me would be Mrs. Craner. I requested the board to be in Texas at a Visible Learning Conference, so I've asked Mrs. Minor to cover that for me.
Okay.
Mrs. Pettit will also be at that conference, so with Mr. Vitale and Mrs. Gephardt, you will be with Mrs. Wilk at Irving. Oh, okay, so we'll need to reschedule with
Yours.
You got my message.
Rescheduled.
David.
Seventh, fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jim, yes.
Yeah. Yes, he
Yes.
is.
Friday at 9 o'clock.
Should. I don't have other calendar here, so but I think it'd be okay. Friday the 7th?
Okay, February 11th, week earlier board meeting there.
And that's also Judge Murray's meeting. It's not on the 18th, yeah.
And then, again, potential student discipline hearings on the 12th. The 14th, local issues committee at 7:30 a.m. And then that takes us out to February 17th, President's Day, which is down the hill. I think Mrs. Craner, Mr. Facer, and Mr. Manson are committed to that one.
are you being a nurse?
I'm being a nurse.
And Mrs. Gephardt's going to be out of town. So we'll have dinner with our legislators. I don't know if we confirmed the place or if we're still kind of working out the details, but we'll get that figured out for you. And then the next day also, the 18th, the day on the hill. And then it looks like, so the Judge Murray meeting was scheduled for the week earlier.
Right.
And then that takes us out clear to the end of February and another key communicators and student discipline. So that is your calendar for the month and then some.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now it's time for public comment pertinent to agenda items, and since there's no public here and I haven't received anything, we'll move on. Now it's time for action items. Is to approve the secondary social studies textbook adoption. Chuck, is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the secondary social studies textbook adoption as presented.
I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion is passed. Next item is to approve the 21st Century After-School Program Grant application pending completion. Oh, that's a lot of words.
I move that we approve the
Is there a motion?
21st Century After-School Program grant application pending completion.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, that motion is passed. I'm looking for a motion for out-of-state overnight travel requests.
I move that we approve the out-of-state overnight travel requests.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is passed. The next item is to approve the early graduation request. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the early graduation request.
I'll second.
Second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that motion is passed. The next item is to approve the camp requests. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the camp request.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is passed, and next is to approve the memorandum of understanding, or MOU, with the city of Pocatello regarding sewer lines located at Pocatello High School.
I hereby move that the board approve the memorandum of understanding with the city of Pocatello regarding the sewer lines located at Pocatello High School as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion is passed, and the final item is to award the WAN Internet Services bid. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the WAN service.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
That Motion is passed, and that concludes this hearing, and then it would entertain a motion to adjourn
I move we adjourn.
Meeting, yeah.
the meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.